Galatians chapter number 1 and verse number 7 again. When I left the radio yesterday, I was dealing with there are two things that the believers in Galatia were having to deal with. Paul identifies these in Galatians 1:7. But there be some that trouble you, and then second, and would pervert the gospel of Christ. There be some that trouble you and would pervert the gospel of Christ. Now, I pointed out on the program yesterday that these Judaizers that had upset the believers in Galatia were simply troublemakers. They were troublemakers. There be some that trouble you, and if that's not the definition of a troublemaker, I don't know what is. The Greek word here is the Greek word tarasantes. It is a participle indicative, and that implies a continual action. So this is an ongoing thing. It's not a matter that we have trouble here, but we can get past that and move on. This is a never-ending, ongoing thing. Now, I pointed out on the program yesterday that there are some men that are just troublemakers. And I think there are a few women around that are just troublemakers. Everywhere they go, they cause trouble. Now, I've had people that have disagreed with me over the years. And I've never had anybody that has slapped me on the back and said, Brother Ben is a good guy. Everybody loves Brother Ben. I'm more like Oliver Green. You either love me or hate me. But the one thing that I have striven to not be is a troublemaker, to stir up trouble. And I expound the scriptures on the Bright Spot Hour, and I go verse by verse and line by line. And obviously, if I preach premillennialism, then all the amillennialists are obviously not going to agree with that. If I preach justification by grace through faith, the Campbellites are not going to agree with that. Man's not saved by water baptism. Not at all. Well, anytime you expound the scriptures and deal with the scriptures line by line, precept by precept, you're going to draw a line of demarcation. There's going to be a division that will arise. I don't think that the matter of division, especially over truth, should be interpreted as being an area of making trouble. Not at all. There's no way that I could be a part of the ecumenical movement. I believe that from the plain reading of the Bible, the Pauline letters, that a man is justified by grace through faith. So how in the world could I fall and have fellowship and fall in line with a man that preaches that a man is saved by works, or a man is saved by the wine and the wafer of the Roman Catholic Church, or a man is saved by water baptism? When I read in Romans 5, being justified freely, that means without price or obligation, being justified freely by His grace through the redemption that is in Christ Jesus. I have been accused over the years of preaching easy believism. Well, if Romans chapter number 5 is easy believism, then mark me down, I'm guilty of that. After the fallow ground is broken up and the Lord opens a man's understanding, being saved is as easy as sitting in a chair. The difficulty is a matter of conviction, but we're not going to get into that. I'm not going to get sidetracked on that. The area of disagreement over a point of theology cannot be said to be causing trouble. If that's the case, every Bible preacher from Paul the Apostle forward has been a troublemaker. Not at all. But there are some men that are troublemakers. Now what does this word tarasantes mean? There be some that trouble you. To trouble here, the word tarasantes means to unsettle or perplex. To unsettle or perplex. Or, here's another area, to disquiet or to cause anxiety. To disquiet or to cause anxiety. Now, over the years of my ministry, I've run into some people, some preachers that I thought were troublemakers. But those men generally were not Bible expositors. I have run into a few men along the way, and my grandfather never would use them at the tabernacle. They were men, my granddad's been dead 25 years, but I remember those days like it was last week. And there were men that built ministries around upsetting and unsettling the saints. They'd come in for a meeting, and the opening night of the meeting, they would say that Dr. R.A. Torrey said that 85% of the people in our churches are lost. And Dr. So-and-so said that 90% of them were lost. And Dr. So-and-so said 75% of the people were lost. And then they'd spend the next 3 or 4 nights trying to upset the believers, talk them out of their faith, preach to them that they had gotten a whitewash job and that they hadn't gotten the real thing. And then they would lay a lot of extra biblical things upon them, such as, if you've ever doubted your salvation, then you need to come get it settled tonight. Well, your preaching is prompting the matter of doubt. You're not trying to settle the people in their faith. You're a troublemaker. You're upsetting them. Everyone can be made to doubt. Man, I've been married 33 years to my wife. We're working our 34th year of marriage, and I've doubted a lot of times in the last 34 years whether or not I was a very good husband. My daughter will turn 30, her birthday, and since her birth, I have wondered how good a father I was, and you wouldn't have to talk to me very long. You'd have me doubting how good a father I've been, how good a husband I've been. In fact, you could talk to me long enough, and I'd say, boy, I'm the sorriest husband in the United States. There's not a lower, trifling, no good husband than me. And yet I look at the evidence. My wife has never paid a bill. My wife has never had to make a car payment. My wife has never had to make an insurance payment. I've paid all the bills for 34 years. My wife has never had to fret and worry about if I was going to come home, or if there's going to be food to eat, or if I was going to spend all my money up in a nightclub or a honky-tonk before I got home. My wife's never had to worry about that. But you talk to me long enough now, and you can have me talked into just how bad a husband I've been, to disquiet, to cause anxiety. Paul uses this word 2 times, both times in the book of Galatians, here in chapter 1:7, and then again in chapter 5 and verse number 10. The King James translators always translate this word, terasantes, as troubled or troubleth. Troubled or troubleth. Now, I've said this, I want to say it again. There are preachers in the current generation that have made it a practice to upset the faith of believers in every church where they hold meetings. And their point is to see how many pastors they can get to the altar to get a profession of faith, and pastors' wives, and deacons, and singers, and song leaders, and church members. And they'll leave and say, we had 85 people saved tonight. And you look, and there's 85 of the best members that were in that church. But they went in and upset the faith of the people that were there. They brag and write in and talk about how many pastors and deacons they had saved in their last campaign. Like the Judaizers, they make it a ministerial practice to trouble the people. They are constantly causing questions rather than trying to root and develop the faith of the believers. They are constantly preaching a series of questions to cause the people to begin to doubt their position, to doubt their salvation, to doubt their walk with the Lord, to doubt their prayer life, to doubt their service for the Lord. They build a ministry around that. They're troublemakers. They're nothing but troublemakers. If you lived on a road like I do, I live on a road in the county here in Greenville, and I have neighbors beside me and across the road from me. The last thing I want to do to my neighbors is to cause them trouble, to cause them anxiety, to disquiet them. I want my neighbors to say, Brother Carper lives over there, and I trust anything the man does. He's going to stay with us. He's not going to cause us any trouble. In fact, I appreciate my neighbors, if they get ready to leave, they come across the road and say, we're going to be gone for 3 or 4 days. Would you watch the house for us? And I, in turn, do the same thing. I'm going to be gone for 3 or 4 days. Would you keep your eye on everything for me? But you wouldn't have to go very far. You'd find troublemakers in a neighborhood where they keep all the neighbors stirred up And some of them, it seems like their point for living is to cause anxiety and heartburn for all the people that are around them. Not only are these troublemakers, but there will be some that trouble you, but secondly, these troublemakers pervert the gospel of Christ. They pervert the gospel of Christ. Now, how am I to understand this matter of perversion? How do I understand this? They go back under the law and they substitute the law for the gospel. By substituting the matter of Mosaic law and preaching that as the gospel, that is a perversion of the gospel. Now, what do we mean by the word pervert? They pervert the gospel of Christ. How am I to understand that? The Greek word here is the Greek word metastari. It is a verb, and this verb is aorist infinitive, so it happens one time. The gospel is perverted when you add circumcision or law keeping to the matter of the gospel. The word is only used 3 times in the New Testament. Acts 2:20, the sun shall be turned into darkness. That's the word, pervert, turned into darkness. Galatians 1:7, and would pervert the gospel of Christ. James 4:9, the 3rd time the word is used in the New Testament, let your laughter be turned to mourning. So these troublemakers that arrive in Galatians 1:7 turn the gospel of Christ. They pervert the gospel of Christ. The gospel of Christ ceases to be the gospel in their hands. They would pervert the gospel of Christ or turn the gospel of Christ from grace to law. This is done by misapplication and a misconstruing of the words in order to confuse, and now we're back to our troublemakers, to confuse those that hear and to lead them astray. And my time has gotten away from me on the program today. The Lord willing, on the Friday broadcast on tomorrow, I'll continue dealing with this with the Lord's help and your listenership. God bless you until the program at that time.
View the website at thebrightspothour.com. You may write the Bright Spot Hour at Post Office Box 4,